What up, YouTube? How's it going? I just want to come through for a quick moment and give a shout out to the dark skinned black men who fight against the lighter is better, white is right mentality. I know some of you probably a little shocked. You're like, what? You talking positive about dark skinned black men? Yeah. But yeah, believe it or not, I actually don't hate on dark skinned black men. Believe it or not, I really don't. But which is a little funny because there's a group of light-skinned men who come to my channel on occasion and accuse me of kissing like dark-skinned people's ass all the time. So it's just a bit weird how one group has an opinion of you and another group has an opinion of you, and their opinions contradict each other. But yeah, I just wanted to come through right quick and just give a shout out to, those dark-skinned black men out there, the brown-skinned, dark-skinned black men out there who do, consciously, fight against and push back against the um, lighter is better, white is right mentality because they are out there. Believe it or not, like a lot of times they just, I guess, don't get the spotlight on them for some reason or one reason or another. But they're out there and they want to perpetuate and create and perpetuate dark skin, right? Instead of buying into like, oh, black is only okay if it's mixed with something else, and they're pushing back and saying no, like black is beautiful and worthy and valuable by itself. It doesn't have to be paired with anything else to be considered, you know, palatable. You know? And I feel like the guys, the dark skinned, brown skinned black men who, engage in this mentality or who engage in, pushing back against this, I think they may personally have had some experiences in throughout their life, and whether it's in childhood or adulthood, and just picked up on things they've seen in the media but also in the community, where it's like they have picked up on a subtle anti-dark skin bias, not only outside of the community but within the community, and that didn't sit well with them, right? And they may have experienced some things, in their personal life that trace back to that anti-dark skin bias. You know, perhaps they picked up on the way that people treat certain kids that look a certain way. Like sometimes I think either they were the kid who perhaps was juxtaposed with like their lighter skinned sibling or their mixed race sibling, and didn't maybe receive the same amount of like praise and like oohs and ahs, that mixed kids and light skinned kids sometimes are assumed to receive. Like me personally, I don't think I ever really received any like oohs and ahs for some. I don't know. I don't know. I can't really think of like a situation really. Maybe it happened when I was like a kid and like a toddler. Maybe I don't know. Me personally, I don't really remember that though. You know, and as well for me personally, not to make this about myself, but for me personally, is a age gap between me and my siblings. Like there's a big age gap between us. So like when I was like, toddler, they were, probably like in a late elementary school or junior high school, you know. Um, No. Well, I say when I was in kindergarten, I'll say maybe like late elementary or early junior high, maybe. There's a big age gap. There's a significant age gap between us. So thankfully, I don't think I was ever compared to my siblings. You know, whether positive or negative, really. Thankfully. But yeah, some dark skinned men, you know, kind of picked up on. I'm kind of noticing that. I think there's some out there who have picked up on that type of like anti dark skin bias, and it doesn't sit well with them. They don't like it. They really want to push back against that, And again, they see how when it comes to the kids, how people kind of like react to the kids who are, light and mixed versus how they react to the kids who are dark skin, a brown skin, and they feel some type of a way about that. It's like, hey, why isn't this kid being, elevated or praised like these mixed kids over here? What's what's wrong? What's the difference between them? Like, why are you treating this kid this way and this kid the other way, right? And you know, thankfully, that wasn't. Yeah. Well, I'll skip that. But yeah. So that's one thing that they probably picked up on. Another thing is probably how dark-skinned women are treated. If these dark-skinned men do love themselves, then they would also have to love their reflection, right? And the extension of themselves. Like dark skinned, brown skinned females are an extension and a reflection and you know a variation of dark skinned black men, right? And oftentimes, you know, if they have enough self love and really want to push back against the white is right, lighter is better type mentality, they tend to pick up on how, the dark skinned women are being treated, right? Why are the dark skinned women being mistreated like this, right? Why aren't the dark skinned women being put on a pedestal and being celebrated for their beauty instead of just the sex appeal, instead of just the body, right? So that doesn't sit well with them either. Because again, it's again a subtle anti dark skin bias. The dark skin is what's causing this to happen. Like people are reacting to dark skin like this. And low key, even the men go through it. They're not vocal about it, you know. But I've heard some things here and there within my like day to day life, a little here and there. Um, and also even the way that some women treat dark skinned men. Like some women, one minute he's like, chocolate daddy, chocolate king. Next minute, all types of niggas. When something goes wrong, this dude is all kinds of niggas. Even sometimes saying dusty, broke, ashy, right? Like again, that's something to pick up on too. Sometimes these women will even throw in some slurs like, "Oh, this gorilla nigga, this ape nigga." Some of them, I'm not saying all of them, but some of them will throw in some stuff like that, you know. So one minute, you know, he's being praised, for his skin tone. In the next minute, he's being, you know, disparaged because of the same skin tone. And noticing how some of these women want to get with them, but want to be with them, get with them but at the same time, when it comes to the kids, they tend to want their kids to not look like them, and that's something to pick up on too. Again, not all, but that does happen, right? And also, not to mention like the dark skin jokes, you know, that particularly black men have to deal with especially in adolescence, right? The dark skin jokes, right? And sometimes, I mean, we all can have jokes, and I'm sure those guys kind of like, hey, it's just a joke, haha. But sometimes when you hear that joke repeated again and again, I'm sure it probably like, okay, we kind of get it. We get the point already. Like, is it really that big a deal? you know, to have dark skin, right? Like, how many jokes did Wesley Snipes have to deal with, right? Flavor Flav, you know, and not to mention, things outside of the community piled on top of that. And, then we kind of wonder why, oh, these dark skinned men are choosing women who don't look like them. Wonder why, you know? And I think all that, I think these dark skinned men have become, some of them who particularly who are pushing back against the whitest right, lighter is better mentality, they have, become woke to colorism, right? Because, we often talk about being woke to racism, you know, but we don't hardly ever talk about being woke to colorism, right? Because I think when it comes to that, there's some waking up that we have to do too when it comes to colorism, you know, and you definitely want to acknowledge and shout out the dark skinned men who are woke to colorism, you know, because that is needed, especially for the dark skinned females. They need the dark skinned men to wake up to it too. Not only to wake up to it and how they participate in it, but also just wake up to it just in general. They need their male counterpart to have their back. Because honestly, I think that brown skinned, dark skinned black man would have the brown skinned, dark skinned women's back the best. Not that other people can't, because, we can, but I think the best, though, the best person to have the brown skinned, dark skinned females back and the kids back too is the brown skinned, dark skinned man. And as well, I commend them, the brown skinned, dark skinned men, for not only considering yourself when it comes to colorism, because sometimes that happens too when it's only an issue. It only becomes an issue only when it affects them specifically, right? Even though these problems do affect them in a roundabout way, if it affects the brown skinned, dark skinned black woman and the brown skinned, dark skinned kids, it kind of that circles back to you too, But thankfully, they're smart enough to know that. Some the ones who are woke, are really woke. But I'm going to bring this video to a close. Thank you guys for watching. Feel free to comment. I really appreciate the feedback in the comments. And I'll catch you in the next video. Adios and goodbye for now.